Hey, how's everybody doing today? Everybody well? Can you hear me at all? Let me check the chat real quick here. Thanks, Eric. So today's like Q&A Monday. Unfortunately, the TMC 2208, or excuse me, 2209 that I was going to show you for sensorless homing, I'm almost done with the jig to test it. Essentially, it's a motor that holds a X carriage. This should be done probably by Friday. I've got obviously work in between, so I'm just going to push that off to the side and take some requests. So, is there anything anybody wants to look at today? Maybe if you name a board, I might have it on hand and we can try it out. I think I've got everything almost organized after resetting my configuration, so. Well, okay, if no one feels like talking, I'll try something different. Oh, SKR Pro? What do you want to do on the SKR Pro? So, what specific question do you have on the SKR Pro? Okay, well. Hey, Derek, how's it going? So, I guess we're going to talk about the SKR Pro. People are, I guess, formulating their questions right now. Oh, that's a hard one. See, the TFT Pro, or excuse me, the Wi-Fi, is a little difficult. One of the things you have to do for that, you don't actually have to set the Wi-Fi mat. Well, you don't have to. Let me get one in front of us so I can try and explain it. So let me see if I have one over here. I don't know if this one has a Wi-Fi module that you can connect to it. It looks like it does. Let me see if I've got a module nearby. Just moving some stuff around so I can, I've got one. Looks like I do. So, the Wi-Fi module actually just plugs in. I'm doing good, Eric. So, let me grab the module out of here. I saw it in here a second ago. One's actually for the MKS. Let me see if I've got the other one. I might not have the one I want in front of me, but it might be in the other room. Here's one Wi-Fi module. This actually goes to the MKS version. So this is not the normal one that would plug into here, and the ports are obviously backwards. So let me grab the other one. I was able to find it. So let me take it out of its package. Here's the actual module that we would need to use. Now, unfortunately, I gotta open this up real quick here. So, take this out. They usually pre-program this. You won't need to use it as an actual secondary port, but you will have to set the secondary port in Marlin for it, meaning that you're going to have to set the second serial for this connection. So this actually just pops right in. Actually, I don't know which direction it pops in on this, so we'll look up the manual. My guess is it pops like that, but let's look it up before we plug it in. Let me peek over to the chat real quick here. So I'm going to actually pull up the directions for it, or at least I hope I am. So I'm going to bring you over to the browser. And inside the browser, what we're going to do is we're going to search on, let's see, BTT Wi-Fi TFT GitHub. And this should bring us someplace where it'll be hopefully helpful. So it looks like there's a bunch of different questions on it for GitHub. So let's see if this has anything to do with it. So they're talking about the module. And then they have information down here. So we know that there's a little bit of information. Let's see what we've got for the actual LCD. Apparently that's not helpful. So it looked like they were talking about the TFT 35. So we'll do TFT 35 and see if they maybe moved it. And here we go for GitHub. Let's see if we've got directions. It says manual. So inside the manual, hang on a second, let me simplify this so I can see. We've got the actual manual. They point out where the TFT goes. They point in a certain direction. I'm still a little clueless as to the information. That's a little incomplete. So my assumption is the way that I have it placed works. And other than that, I don't have a lot of information. So let's see if we can find something in hardware. Maybe there's another manual. User guide. Okay, it says the voltage, where the reset is. I think there's 8 pins, so yeah, that matches. So we could verify that the pins are in the right place by looking at the actual pinout diagram to verify this. So if we go to the pinout diagram, we can verify the pins for Wi-Fi. So we have the ground here, and we have the voltage over here. That's kind of not helpful. But for TX and RX, we know those are going to be reversed. So let's see if we can go back over here. See if we can find some information as to what's going on. Am I in the right place? Thought I was. Oh, that's the wrong place. Sorry. Right here. So it looks like the TX is on the other side, but you see RX is over here. So that's positive. I mean, these two are supposed to be reversed. And these two are reversed. And the grounds match. So the pins on the... I was looking at the pins on the board, I think, which makes it kind of confusing. Let's double check that. So they might be showing the board reversed here, meaning from the other direction, and that's why we're confused. So let's see if we can avoid smoking the board here. So all I'm gonna do, I'm probably going to avoid showing you Wi-Fi because of the computer I'm on, but I'll show you the process. So I'm gonna grab a board. So here's a board that we'll use, and we'll connect the Wi-Fi like so. So let me grab the connection over here. So in this, like usual, you have to find where it actually is, and I've got to turn on the other light that I forgot to turn on. Sorry about that. And it looks like it's right here if I remember correctly. I could be plugging into the wrong thing, but let me examine it real quick. It might be also over here. So if it doesn't power up, then we know we've got an issue with me plugging it in backwards. So we always want to double check our pins. And down here, if you look on the board, you're trying to find where the reset pin is. Apparently I'm not seeing exactly where it is because I might be in the wrong place on the board. So I'm going to pull up the schematic for it real quick. Let's see, we're going to go to BTT SKR Pro. And it's going to be version 1.2. And I know I forgot to put the actual screen on for the desktop, but I'll show you that in a second. So I want to check where the pins are for the SKR for the pinouts. Hopefully this is it. So BL Touch by UART. I'm looking for the TFT, which is over here someplace. So I'm guessing it's perpendicular to where I'm looking. So I'm gonna have to look at the board real quick here because I'm slightly confused. So I'm gonna pull up the workbench and show you what I mean. So I'm trying to find the TFT. I know I found this the other day, so here it is. So I need to know where the reset pin is, so I'm going to jump back over there for a second. So the reset pin is located at the top. So that means that we're going to take this, and I'll show you how to connect it on the bench. So the reset's this pin. So we're going to go to these first, then connect this one last. I put a light tower up, so my arm has to wrap around it now. So we're good there. And now I need to power it with USB. So I'm going to plug it in here. And before I actually go any further, I'm going to stabilize this board. Sorry about this. When I pull out a new board and the table's not ready for it, it slides all over the place, so I have to fix it real quick. Of course, not knowing what questions I'm going to have, I have to set things up quickly. So, there we go. So now I'm going to plug it in and hopefully it won't move around. Double check to see if it's powered. Still has the logo from the other day. So Wi-Fi for this, it says right there that it's enabled. It shows you your IP address. And then it says no printer attached. That's because the firmware is not set up yet. So let's see if we can actually connect to this through Wi-Fi. So I'm going to go to my browser. And I'm going to type 192.168.0.1, I think it was. And we'll see if anything magical happens. It's not on the same network as this one, so it's going to make it difficult. So I'm on a different subnet, so that's probably not going to work. But if I get a chance, I'll actually set it up correctly. I have to actually change either my IP address or its IP address. So in order to do that, I have to expose parts of what I'm working with in the background on my network configuration. So I'm going to try and avoid that today. But maybe we can do a different question. The module on the SKR is the exact same theory. Let me look up where it needs to be plugged in. So if I go over to the browser and I go to the SKR, let's see if we can find the actual direction. So inside here, this is for the version 2. You're going to go to the manual. Then you're going to go to where it is located in here, hopefully. If it's not in here, we'll look it up in the 1.1 version. So it's going to take a second to scroll through, obviously. That's for the USB. Okay, so what they're saying, I think, is that the way this is going to be actually loaded is going to be this way. And I'll plug it in. If you see smoke, I've done it wrong. Doesn't look like I'm seeing any smoke. But the actual configuration in this case, if you're asking, was the second serial. Probably is what you're going to be working with. But when you have a TFT display, I don't know how it's going to work out. So that's going to be an interesting scenario for me to research. Yeah. Normally you could do it on either the board or the TFT, but I don't think you can do both yet. But let's see if there's any documentation on that. So if we go to Google, we'll search on Marlin firmware using TFT display and Wi-Fi. So this looks like an issue. That's probably not going to be helpful to us. And it's a different display. So maybe in Marlin. But I don't think we're going to have another serial port to use it with, so that's going to be difficult. So I'm going to say that it's either one or the other for TFT or Wi-Fi if you're using the second serial port for that, but that's just a guess. I would try setting it up first on the board. I know that works because I did it a long time ago. And then you have to map to it on the same network. And we saw what the default IP address was. I'll show you that again. Let me just go over to the desktop. So to find the default Wi-Fi address, we just look at the screen. It's pre-programmed on here. You can change it. That's how I got into trouble playing with it a while ago. But get this where you can see. So it says no printer attached. It probably will say the Wi-Fi in a second. If not, we might have to explore. There it is. It's actually right in the center. Sorry about that. So usually I use a computer with Wi-Fi on the same subnet and then map to that. And then there's a software you have to load, and the password I think is 0 through 9. If I remember correctly. I could be wrong. How would you set up the COM port inside Marlin firmware for Wi-Fi? It's similar to the TFT. I'll show you right now. So let me move over to VS Code. And basically in VS Code, you're going to go to your configuration.h. I usually cheat and search on motherboard because I know it gets into the neighborhood. And then up here, you have to enable the second serial port. This would be your first. That would be your second. That's how I believe you're supposed to enable Wi-Fi. And then you'll have to look up the port number for it. That's probably someplace in the documentation. Or you'll have to guess by going through each one of these. I think on this board it's either 3 or 4. Or it's like 0 or 1. But don't quote me on that because it's been a while. I usually have to look these up. Let me go back to the chat and see what's going on here. Yeah, if you wanted to get the Wi-Fi through the TFT, that's probably the most logical way to do it. You're going to have to set up the TFT for your second serial port. That's the easy workaround of the problem. But sometimes I miss the total question here, so anybody else have another question? We try a different subject here. And for those that are viewing on Twitch, can you tell me if my channel looks better than it used to look? I'm actually trying to build that out and see if it actually looks better. But obviously I'm still working on parts of it that need work, like any kind of imagery. But maybe what we should do is talk about troubleshooting issues. A couple people have asked how to track down issues with pins today, and there's an interesting way I wanted to show you with a multimeter. First I'll show you some simple examples, like finding a broken wire. If you turn your multimeter over to here, I don't know if you can see it yet. You can. Let me make the screen bigger. There we go. I have the multimeter set up. Right now I'm using a fluke. So this jumps around. The way that I do continuity, which is checking for a broken wire, is by turning on the actual bell to it. And then I know if there's a broken wire when I'm checking something, then I can detect it by checking both ends of the wire. In this case, if I wanted to check ground on the board, I could find the actual ground. See if I can do this without smoking the board. Like here and here would be a ground, but they're not working. So let's see if I can do it over here. So I got a ground, and I got a ground right here. They're obviously not connected. So that's not a good example, but let's see if I can find something to show you where it actually is a good example. Here we go. Here's a mini heat bed. I just want to check the continuity of the power so that I know it loops all the way through and around. And there's no broken wires, so I'm going to have to hold this down and then touch this one. There we go. So what's happening is I know there's no breaks in the wire in this case. Now I've tried it on the actual thermistor and it no longer works the way I thought it does. So the thermistor, generally you have to replace it if you're getting a bad signal or check your connections. But let's see if we can test the actual pinouts for high and low. Yeah, technically the board has 2 serial ports at all times. So one serial port would be your serial port, and then there might be wires that run off that duplicate the serial port depending upon your board. And then in this case, your second serial is probably going to run through your TFT in this case. I don't know exactly how they do that in software. And then on other boards like the ramps, it's going to be auxiliary 1, I think, is the location of the second serial port or the same serial port. Depends upon how they implement it. Pins can be used for a lot of things. And they have read-write pins that are located on the board. You just have to find them with the pinout diagram. But let me see if I can find a actual pin that we can work with here. I want to show you how to troubleshoot the highs and lows of pins. So I'm going to go over to the browser for a second. We're going to go back over here. We're going to find the pinout diagram. So it's located right here. I'm going to pull up the actual one because this one's kind of small. So let's see what we got here. I believe it's that. Let me see if I can make it a little larger. There we go. So I think we'll pick an end stop pin just for fun. So PE15, probably not a good pick. We'll start with X minimum, which is PB10. So it's probably going to be in the firmware where we can decipher where that is. So if we go to VS Code, because we know the location now, but we need to know the name so that we can use the G code. So inside here, I'm going to go to pins, which is located under source core pins. And then the actual board type, I think, is one of these. So I'm going to have to search. I'm looking for the SKR Pro version 1 or 2. Not in that list, unless I scrolled by it, which I've been known to do. But here it is. So inside here, it's saying that it's using a common set of pins. So what you need to do is you actually have to go to this particular included header to find it. So essentially the SKR Pro and the SKR Pro version 1.2 and 1.1 pin-wise are almost exactly the same, it looks like. So they go to a common set of pins. So we got to find the SKR Pro common because they both point to that. And then we got to find the pin, which is going to be a search, and we're going to look for PB10, I believe. And here's the actual diag pin. So we know what the name of the pin is. We need that for the G code. So the next thing that we need to do is find out what the G code is because I don't remember. If you want to tell me in the chat, that's great. That would be helpful, but I got to look it up. So I'm going to go over to the browser and I'm going to go to Marlin Firmware. And inside here, we have our help, we have our G codes, we have all documentation. What we're searching for is, I think, a debug pin. So let's try debug first. Searching on the right place. Looks like I'm searching on debug. Sorry, it's in the opposite corner than I'm used to looking for things. Debug pins. So here's the command. So basically it's telling you how to set up your actual pin. Now we may have to turn on pins debugging in the firmware. So I'll show you how to actually enable that as well. I just don't remember where it's located. It's either on config.h or config advanced.h. And then we'll have the ability to work with that. So let's go over to VS Code for a second. Inside VS Code, I'm going to go to configuration.h and I'm going to search on pins debug, and it looks like it's not finding anything. So we're going to do that on the advanced. And there's one place where it appears, which is right at the end of the file. We need to remove the comment. We also need to prepare this file for the SKR Pro. So I'm going to scroll up and go to boards.h so I can find it. I'm going to search on SKR_Pro. I'm going to copy this out. And I'm going to go back to config.h. And I'm going to search on motherboard. And we already have the board set because it's the SKR Pro version 1.2. So that's good. And then I'm going to check my platform IO. It looks like I'm set correctly there. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pop the drive out by powering down the system. I'm going to put this in a little drive to actually set it up here and pop this into my USB drive. And then I'm going to do a build. This probably won't take long because this computer is slightly faster than my laptop by like a lot. And I got errors. So let's see what I did wrong here. So sanity check. Serial port 2 cannot be the same as serial port 1. So I may have changed something without looking, and I did. So I'm just going to comment that back out and then go back and build again. Now it may fail again and I'll have to do a clean build, but we'll find out. And while that's happening, I'll look at the chat. Okay, nobody has any new questions yet? Okay, well, let me see what the command is again here. So I'm going to go over to the browser and I'm going to look at the command and see what's going on. And what I want to know is actually how to do the command. And I usually screw this up. So we see that the pin right here, that says watch pin 56. Not what we want to do. We want to make it high. So what I need to do is figure out a way to make it just high. So I might have the wrong command because there's another one over here for M43. And let's see what that says. That toggles the pin. So the problem with toggling the pin 3 to 5 times within a second, from low for 1 second, high to another, that we need a logic analyzer to check that. I just want to set it to high so I can see what's going on voltage wise. So there must be another debug for pins. Or I'm missing something in the command. Because there's a T here for time, I believe. Just toggle. So what I'm going to do is actually load the firmware first and see if we can figure that out. Setting up the fan to cool down steppers, that's kind of easy. I'll show you that real quick. It should be over in Configuration Advanced. You need to go to the top of the file. And inside the top of the file, you're going to search on steppers, I think. And there are multiple places where steppers are listed, so we might have to search on fan instead. Yeah, let's search on fan. Let's see, we got the chamber fan. Not what we're looking for. Obviously, there's a lot of places where they talk about the fan, so I might go buy it by accident here. But there is something for steppers. And I've done a couple of tutorials on how to do this already, so if I can't find it right away, we can always look at a tutorial. Fan. Trying to find an easy way to search on it. Press cooling. Okay, here's something to cool down stepper drivers. So what you're gonna do, gonna have to read through this real quick. So it looks like for the Z-axis you can do it. I thought you could do it for all of them. So I might be on the wrong place, but use cooler fans is possibly one place to do it. And there should be another place someplace in here. Oh, that's for the extruder. That's for the case. And I'm not sure, I want to say that it's for the X steppers right there. So it might be under here, but what I just showed you up here is probably what it has. But it's, I think it's related to this. But it says only the X-axis is considered. So this might be for all axi. But I'd have to experiment with that. But let me go back to looking at the actual pins. Sorry, I gotta actually bring you over to where I was talking. Let me show you real quick. Sometimes I don't know when I've changed the screen. So up here, this may be used for the steppers. I could be wrong, but it says cool down stepper drivers and MOSFETs. So that's what you look for to uncomment, and then you'd set your settings from there. So let me peek at the chat real quick here. So Eric, you still there, or you can only see 2 people in the chat right now. Hopefully I'm answering the right question. Okay. Do you have any other questions, or do you want me to see if I can test pins? This is going to be kind of not so interesting, but it is necessary. The only problem is the debugging pins have changed from what they used to be. Hey, Derek. Yeah, I saw the chat got kind of quiet for a second. I was worried everybody was either knocked out by me clicking on something accidentally, or they just were bored with Q&A Monday. But let me bring up the desktop for the actual pins debugging here and see if I can figure this out. It's probably not going to be easy to figure out right away. All I want to do is set a pin to high. And you used to be able to do this, but it looks like they changed it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring that pin out with a jumper because I don't want to touch close to the board. I might be able to do it, but the board's too expensive. So let me see if I can find a jumper pin here. Okay, so I'm going to place a jumper on the board and I'll show you my technique for this. So we want to check the signal pin, which I think is right here. And we want to bring this out, and we want to make sure it doesn't move around. So I'm going to put some putty down and move it into the putty as soon as the putty adheres. That way it won't jump around too much. Then I'm going to power back up the board, but I'm going to move putty over a little. And so what we know is this is ground and this is live. So let's see if we can see anything for microvolts initially. So I'm going to touch here, here. Right now I think it's 0. Hopefully I'm checking the right pin. One way to verify, you take this out, and I believe voltage is on top. You can check it again. So here, here. There I'm not plugged in, or there's no voltage on there. I might be testing ground. Well, that's not smart. Okay, so there it is. 3.325 volts. So 3.3 volts is what it is. So I'm just going to move this over to the other pin, see what that's at. Right now it says that 2.09. So to move it to high, I need to go over to print run, or excuse me, pronterface. Inside pronterface, we're going to do the G code. So the G code, we think, is this, but the pin number, so we'll try the watch first. I don't know how well this is going to work. It says watch pin. It may display inside here, but our pin number is wrong because we found it inside here. So I have to go over to the board common inside of VS Code, copy the pin name, and hopefully get it right because there might be an underscore and I don't know it. I'm going to go back and I'm going to paste this in over where the pin is. So instead of P56, it's going to be... Oh, didn't copy it right. Sorry about that. Go back and grab it again. Oh, lovely. Trying to copy inside OBS. That's not going to work too well. Now I'll go back and paste this right here. I don't know what's going to happen, so hopefully we don't see any smoke. So it says the printer's not online, which is obvious. So I've got to find the COM port real quick. So I'm going to check Device Manager. Obviously you can't see this step, but I've showed it like 5 times. And I'm trying to find what the COM port is, which is 17. Now I'm going to connect. And I'm still not connecting because apparently I have Creo open. So let me close that. Doing some printing earlier today and forgot about it. There we go. So now we'll try the command. So it's saying unknown command, and that's probably because I haven't installed the firmware yet. So I'm going to disconnect this for a second. Going to disconnect the drive with the firmware. Whoop, I actually got to put the firmware on the drive. Guess I haven't had a lot of morning coffee today. So I'm going to go back to VS Code. I'll show you that. Inside VS Code, I need to click on .pio, Big Tree Tech, right click, then I'm going to go to Reveal in Explorer, and I'll show you what that looks like in 2 seconds. Just have to set up the actual visual for you here. There we go. Try. Huh. Apparently the desktop capture is not coming up for me. That's super odd. Try the other one. Well, needless to say, I'm going to navigate into the folder for a second. I'll bring you back over to Pronterface because I'm having too much trouble trying to navigate today, apparently. And I'm going to get the firmware.bin and send it to the actual drive. That apparently is not working either. That's awesome. And I'll plug that back in. And now I'll send it over to the drive, which you've seen me do 1,000 times. I'm right clicking, I'm saying send to, I'm sending to the USB drive. I'm going to pop that out. I'm going to go back over the camera, open this up, stick it in here, and this will turn on our pins debugging in theory. We might not have a connected screen, but that's okay. And then I'll try the command again after I reconnect. So it's saying watching pin or pins. That's not real helpful. So I need to go back and find the G code. I have a funny feeling this is not going to work the way that I thought it used to work, which is going to be horrible, but gives more subject matter for the next day, I guess. So inside the browser, maybe you can walk me through this. What do we got? Try to report on all pins, see what's going on. Maybe this will decipher the command better. Yeah, make sure I'm on the right screen so that you can see what I'm doing. So I'm sending the command to see what all the pins are. And apparently the command is not working for me. So they may have changed this command or I'm using the wrong one. But what I'm trying to do is find out what's going on with the actual pin by toggling it. So I can toggle the pin right here with this command. So I'm going to try this one next. But I don't know which pin it's talking about. So I'm going to show you what I'm thinking about doing. So inside here, there's a way to toggle the pin. So L is the pin number. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go back over. And I'm going to paste this command. And then I'm going to change L, the number of our pin, which is up here, which is PB10. And I'm just going to first do it to see if it works. Then I'm going to try it with the multimeter. So it says it's sending. So I'll go over to the multimeter. See if I can get a measurement. Because we know it was 2 volts. It doesn't seem to want to change. So either I'm misunderstanding this command or I need to do it again and set the seconds higher. So I'm going to do the wait time default to, so I'm going to say it's 10 seconds. I'm going to add an extra 0 because that's 1 second. And I'll do this command again real quick. I get the funny feeling I'm going to need to use a logic analyzer on this, which is a completely different tool set. Because I'm not seeing anything. I'm not sure how quickly it's changing. So I'm going to have to research this command because apparently what I thought I knew, I don't know anymore. Pins debugging. Oh, duh. Set pin state. How about that? Let's see what we got here. So input, output, input pull up, output pull up. Pin is P. So I'm guessing S1 state. So this is from 0 to 255. So that's probably going to be low. So I'm going to copy that command and I'll show you what I'm looking at because apparently I'm clueless. Oh, you already see what I'm looking at. So I'm going to go back over to the desktop for Pronterface. I'm going to try this again. I know this is a lot of trial and error to watch and it's painful because it's painful to explain. But I'm going to copy that pin, put it over here. And I believe I have to say P. And the state's going to be 0 to start, I believe is the range. Let me double check. 0 to 255. So we're trying to bring the pin low. Let's see what happens. Let me just move this over. And then I'm going to measure and see what happens. So there's no change in the pin, which is awesome. Let's try and bring it high. Or it might be the pin number I'm using. I'm going to say 255. Try it again. And there's no change. That's awesome. It's almost like it's the ground. Let me check the pinout diagram and see if I'm totally clueless. So that's the pin, PB10. So apparently I don't know what I'm doing with checking my pins anymore. I used to know how to do this. Thanks, Derek. Most of the time my videos are useful. Apparently today it's not coming out that way. So maybe we'll talk about troubleshooting pins later in the week when I figure out what they changed in the command, because I thought I knew what it was doing. Essentially what I'm trying to do is make the pin high, so the voltage says 3.3 volts. And apparently I'm having trouble with the actual G-code command. It's probably M42. I think the last time I did a tutorial on this was like 3 years ago. So my memory's kind of faded. I probably have to go back and watch my own tutorial to understand what it is. I think it's under ramps. But let me check on the chat here. Okay, well, I'm going to probably end it early today. Yeah, I know I'm getting tripped up on it. Maybe I'm nervous doing this tutorial or this live stream on new equipment, because as you've seen, I keep forgetting to change where I am, but I just added 2 screens so I can control it better. It looks like my camera just went off again, so maybe that's a hint to go move my car. But for those who took time to watch my video today, thank you very much, and hopefully I can do this easier next time. But I'll see you all maybe Tuesday if I figure it out. But my next stream will be Friday at, I believe, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I'll actually try and show you the TMC 2209 with sensorless homing, and I'll probably do the SPY for the 2130 as sensorless homing. But I've got the jig only partially set up, and I'll show you the jig real quick. If you haven't seen what I was talking about, this is the actual jig that I'm working on, and I'll be running an actual X carriage on it. So it's under development. I'm modifying a previous design. So everyone stay safe, take care, and hopefully my next stream will be more interesting.